So let's understand the components of cells one by one. I know you must have gotten confused in the last lecture, and if not, so you can always comment. So let's start with the first component, that is cytoplasm. Okay, so whenever we see the cell, so there's a nucleus, so there are protein floating, so there are other molecules, there's an organelle. So these water or aqueous thing that we see is basically a cytoplasm. Okay, so it is viscous in nature. It contains small molecules such as nutrients, salts, soluble protein, etc. Okay, so 20 to 30% of this cytosol is basically made up of protein. So if question is being asked during your MCQ, so you can always say that. So it is basically very highly concentrated, and it is also a major site of cellular metabolism. So metabolism we are going to study in upcoming lectures, so do not worry about it right now, but make sure you make notes of this. Okay? So 20 to 30% of cytosol is basically protein, and it is highly concentrated. And the second thing that you need to remember is it is a major site of cellular metabolism, and that is your glycolysis, that we are going to study in upcoming lectures. Okay. So the second component that we need to study is cytoskeleton. So now what is this cytoskeleton? So basically this is a mechanical structure provided by the proteins to a cell. So these are made up of like three-dimensional matrix of protein fibers. And these give a function. These have a function to give a cell shape, allows a cell to move, and guide the internal organelle movement. So you must have seen that video. Organelle movement. My E is very. So you must have seen a video. So there's a big giant protein, and there's a very small like little guy running on a particular trail. Okay, so that trail is basically a beta actin and also alpha microtubule chain, alpha tubulin chain, which is known as microtubule. So beta actin plus alpha tubulin make up the microtubule, and when this particular guy moves around that, so that is basically a cytoskeleton. Okay. Now the third thing comes is nucleus. So what is nucleus? It is a site of DNA. And what DNA is basically a brain of the cell. And here the DNA and RNA synthesis takes place. DNA and RNA synthesis take place. Okay. So it is the largest organelle in eukaryotic cell that you need to remember. Okay. So it is a it is the largest organelle in eukaryotic cell, and also here the synthesis of DNA RNA takes place. Lysosome. So you must have read that lysosomes are the membrane bound vesicles which actually helps in degradation. So these are membrane bound vesicles which contain acidic environment. So it has a basically pH of around 5, so like acidic, which helps in degrading cellular waste, organelles, misfolded protein, etc. Okay. So basically it work as a like cleaner of our house, so it make sure that everything is clean. Okay. So here again, so compartmentalization is essential. Otherwise what happens is, like I said, if these are not membrane bound, so whatever protons that we are seeing will simply float in the cell. So just suppose if this is cell, so they'll simply float in the cell and they'll not be able to digest anything, right? So that's why this compartmentalization is essential. Okay. Now coming to the Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus. So these are flattened vesicles. So just like lysosomes. These are again vesicles of lipids, protein, or sugar. So if asked in your MSQ section, so you must know about. So these are vesicles of lipids, protein, and sugar. Okay. So these are usually found near endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and Golgi apparatus has a function in involving protein and fat processing. So basically what happens is Golgi pack this particular protein and helps in cellular trafficking. So for example, if this is a cell, right, and a protein is made here, okay, so what Golgi will do is, so Golgi will pack this particular protein in a vesicle, and depending on the signal peptide, it will either send it to the cytoplasm, or it will send to the cell membrane, or outside of the cell. Okay, so the main function is distribution and shipping. Just remember that, distribution and shipping. So it's like Amazon. Okay, so it takes order from like endoplasmic reticulum. So from rough endoplasmic reticulum, so when a protein is made, and it is packaged by this Golgi apparatus, and it is delivered to a particular address depending on the signaling peptide. So what are these signaling peptide? We are going to study in upcoming lectures, so do not worry about it right now. Okay, just understand the function right now, because sometimes very basic MCQ comes from here and people usually mistake here. Okay, the seventh is mitochondria, which we already discussed, but let's go again. Okay, so it has a double membrane. Just always remember that mitochondria has double membrane. It is a site of oxidative energy production, basically your ATP. So thus it is known as powerhouse of the cell, right? So it is very small in size, similar to a bacteria. So that is why the endosymbiosis theory, symbiotic hypothesis. So those who do not know endosymbiotic theory, so what happens is, it is being believed that so mitochondria was a independent organism. Okay, so it was engulfed by the eukaryotic cell. Okay, so it was engulfed by a eukaryotic cell. Thus the mitochondria has its own gene and can function independent of the cell, okay, that you must know about. Okay, so like this is an additional. Okay, so depending on the tissue, the mitochondria number can vary. Okay, so for example, we think a lot, so that's why our brain need mitochondria a lot, right? And we also use our muscles for like multiple various purposes. So in muscles we can find up over like 1,000 mitochondria. Okay, so you do not need to remember this, so this is just additional information. So in the next class we are going to study about the water biochemistry, and I hope you understood everything I have just said. If not, so rewatch the lectures and make a good note of it. So my writing is a bit messy because I have to continuously speak and write, so that's why my writing is messy. So anyhow, if it helps, so do like and do comment if you have any further queries. Thank you.